So we left off last week dealing with fractions. Are there any questions off of there out of the homework that you guys want me to go over? Did you want me to do that one and see if we can, how it comes out, or? Okay, what page is that on? All right, page 64 here. We have 13 30 seconds times 1/2 plus 1/4. And the pen? I may have to. It's brand new, but it's weird because they're going straight. So in about 10 minutes, we'll be just fine again. I don't know what it is with the thing. Okay, so order of operations applies. We had no enclosing symbols, no exponents. So we're going to do multiplication and division. We're going to go left to right. 13 30 times 1/2 is 13 64. Now we're going to do the division. 1/4 divided by 7/16. Well, that's going to become 1/4 times 16 over 7. The 4 and the 16 both divide by 4. Give me 1 and 4. So 4/7. So we're at the 13 64s plus 4/7. Now we need a common denominator. For 64 and 7, our common denominator, I believe, is what, 600. What does it come up to be? 420, 448, I believe. So 64 times 7, so 13 times 7 is 91. 7 times 64, so 4 times 64 is 256. 91 plus 256 is 347 over 448. Can that be reduced at all? How many of you have a calculator with that key on it, ABC? Okay, go ahead and punch this in. 347, ABC, 448. It stays as that. That's what I thought. Well, let's go over that here quick. That button, that ABC button that you have there, that will allow you to do fractions. If I want to do, I don't know where that came from. That was not what I was writing. Let's say I want to do 4. Come on. 4/5 plus 1/8. What I'm going to enter in the calculator, to enter 4/5, I'm going to type in the 4. Then do the ABC key. 5. So that entered the 4/5. Then I do plus, then 1 ABC 8. And I had equals, what does that give me, 37/40? And that's it. If I want to do mixed numbers, let's say I have 4 and 1/8 times 2 2/3. Same process, I just have to use the ABC key twice. To enter 4 and 1/8, it's 4 ABC 1 ABC 8. So that's just telling the calculator 4 and 1/8. Then times, then do the same, 2 ABC 2 ABC 3 to enter the 2 2/3. What is that? 33/8 times 8/3, so you get 11. Is that TI-84?
Yeah.
TI-84 does not have built-in fraction function. What you can do on the TI-84, this is actually a TI-84 right here. The way you could do that one, the 4 and 1/8, is to do this. You use parentheses, 4 plus 1 divided by 8 times, and then parentheses, 2 plus 2 divided by 3, close your parentheses. That's going to give you an ugly decimal when you hit enter. Well, this one comes out to 11. So it's not an ugly decimal, but let me do an example where it does. Let's do 3 1/3 plus 2 3/4. So it has to come out to an ugly decimal. So you're going to parentheses, 3 and 1 divided by 3, close my parentheses, plus parentheses, 2 plus 3 divided by 4. So that's how I can enter the fractions. I hit enter and it gives me an ugly decimal, 6.08333. You do have a function then on the graphing calculator if you hit the math key. The first option is to fraction. So if I select that option, you have to enter twice. Use a 73/12. That's as far as the graphing calculator will take it for you. So you have 73/12, you're going to have to reduce that then from an improper fraction down to a mixed number. So 6 and 1/12. Any other questions? Yep. It works? Cool. You bet. Okay, now for today, I want to start off with some order of operation problems with our fractions, similar to the one we just went over. Let's look at something like that's the 4/5 plus 2/3 times 3/8. In a problem like this, what would we do first? We'd have to do the multiplication, 2/3 times 3/8. Now, in that multiplication, there's a lot of cross canceling that can be done. The 3's, of course, will divide out. 3 divided by 3 is 1 in both cases. 2 and 8 both divide by 2, which will give me 1 and 4. So 1 times 1 is 1. 1 times 4 is 4. We get 1/4. So now we have 4/5 plus 1/4. So 4/5 plus 1/4 here. We got a common denominator is going to be 20. Five times 4 is 20, so 4 times 4 is 16. 4 times 5 is 20, so 1 times 5 is 5. 16 plus 5 is 21 over 20. So that's 1 and 1/20th. Any questions there? I know I'm a little fast at the end there with the addition. Okay. So I'm going to have you guys try some that might be a little tougher. I'm going to have you try that one in your notes for a minute. We'll come back to it. A couple of you are still finishing up. Let's see how you're doing so far. The first step, obviously, is the enclosing symbols. 1/8 plus 2/5. We're going to have to find common denominator, which is 40. So this becomes how many 40ths? 5 and this? 16. So that adds to give us 21 40ths. So that replaces this here. We've reduced everything inside the parentheses to a single number, so I don't need the parentheses anymore. When I remove the parentheses, what do I have to make sure I put in here? Multiplication. That 1/2 outside the parentheses, there was no operation, so it's implied to be multiplication. What's my next operation? We have to do the multiplication. So we get 1 times 21 is 21. 2 times 40 is 80. 3/4 minus 21 80ths. 80 is going to be our common denominator. So this stays 21. What's this going to come up here? 60. Very good. 4 times 20 makes 80, so 3 times 20 makes 60. 60 minus 21 is 39 80ths. How many of you had 39 80ths? Cool. Well, a little bit different form that those can take might look like this. 13 1/2 minus 2 3/4 times 4 1/3 over 7 1/4 plus 13 1/2 divided by 3 5/8. So in a problem like this, remember this fraction bar here is telling us to divide, but it's also an enclosing symbol. So it's telling us we have to do everything on top first. So let's do everything on top first. What do we have to do first there? Perfect. We have to multiply those. To do that, I have to make them improper. So 2 times 4 is 8 plus 3 is 11 fourths. 4 times 3 is 12 plus 1 is 13 thirds. There's 143 over 12, or 11 and 11 twelfths. So we've got 13 and a half minus 11 and 11 twelfths. What's our common denominator going to be? It's going to be the 12. So the 11 twelfths doesn't change. 1/2 becomes 6 twelfths. Good. Now 6 minus 11 can't be done, so we borrow from the 3. That's a 2. What's this become? 18. Good. We add the denominator to the numerator to get 18 twelfths. So 18 minus 11 is 7 twelfths. 2 minus 1 is 1, and the 1's cancel out. So we got 1 and 7 twelfths there. So the top of this is 1 and 7 twelfths. On bottom, what do we have to do first? Division. So again, we've got to turn them into improper. 13 times 2 is 27, plus 1 is, 13 times 2 is 26, plus 1 is 27 halves. 3 times 8 is 24, plus 5 is 29 eighths. I'm going to write that off to the side because now I'm going to flip it over. It should be 8 over 29, and now it's multiplication. So we can cross cancel the 2 and the 8, give me 4 and 1. 4 times 27 is 108 over 29, which is 3 and 21/29, correct? So now we've got 7 and 1/4 plus that. We need a common denominator, which is going to be 116 is correct. So 29 times 4, 1 times 29 is 29. 29 times 4 is 116. 21 times 4 is 84. We add 29 plus 84. It's 113 over 116. 7 and 2 is 9. So 9 and 113 over 116. So now we've got to divide. 1 and 7 twelfths divided by 9 and 113 over 116. This is what you get when you don't plan your problems out beforehand. What are we going to do next? Improper fractions. I'll do the 1 and 7 twelfths. That's 19 twelfths. How about 9 and 113 over 116? Well, 9 times 116 is what? 1,044. We add that to the 113, it's 1157. So now we've got to invert that one. Plus a 1 there. The 12 and the 116 can cross cancel. They're both divisible by 4. 12 divided by 4 is 3. 116 divided by 4 is 29. How about 9 and 1157? No, 1157 can't divide by 3. If I add up the, remember, if I add up the digits, 1 plus 1 is 2, plus 5 is 7, plus 7 is 14. That does not divide by 3, so that number does not divide by So now we have 9 times 29 is 261, I believe. And 3 times 1157. 71, yep. I was thinking 68 was where I was going. You're right, 71. 261 over 3471. This should be a 19 out of 9, shouldn't it? So it's 19 times 29, which is 551. That looks better. At this point, can it be reduced? Well, you've got your calculators. You can always just enter it, 551 ABC 3471. It won't reduce it. Oh, you only have 3 digits on yours? Okay. That's the old one-line display, isn't it? Which calculator is that? It's TI 31 line? Yeah. Yeah. That's the only reason it's a one-line display is it can only do up to 3 digits in your denominator. Yeah, that can be reduced because the 1157 or the 3471 doesn't divide by 29 or 19. Okay, let me try to come up with one for you guys to try that might be just a touch easier than that. Let's do 2 3/4 times 1 1/2 plus 2 and come on 2 1/4 over 2 3/8 times 2 2/3 plus 5 1/2 divided by 2 3/4. We'll give you a couple minutes to work on that, then we'll. Yeah, the calculators make these a lot easier. Without the calculators, you can see these are a tremendous amount of work. So 2 3/4 times the 1 1/2 plus 2 1/4 in parentheses. What do we have to do first there? The addition in the parentheses. That comes out to be 3 3/4. Now what do we have to do? We have to multiply, and how do we do that? Make them improper. So 2 3/4 will become 11/4. 3 3/4, 15/4. That's 165 over 8, which is 20 5/8. Any questions there? Remember, it's the 165 divided by 8. That's 216. There's none left over. Bring down the 5. Doesn't go in there. There's a remainder of 5, so that's where the 5/8 is. Okay, so 20 5/8 on top. On bottom, what do we have to do first? Multiplication and division, we're going to go left to right. 2 3/8 becomes 2 times 8 is 16 plus 3 is 19 eighths. 2 2/3. 8/3. Our eighths are going to cross cancel. Divide by 8 gives us 1 and 1. So 19 times 1 is 19. 1 times 3 is 3. So that is 6 1/3. And then do the division. What do we do first? Make them improper. 5 1/2 becomes 11 over 2. 2 3/4. 11/4, and then we flip the 11/4, becomes 4/11. The 11s cross cancel, give us 1 and 1. 2 and 4 divided by 2 to give me 1 and 2, so that is 2. 6 1/3 plus 2, we don't need to work that out. What's that become? 8 1/3. So we've got 20 5/8 divided by 8 1/3. Well, 20 5/8, we're going to turn that back into 165/8. 8 1/3 is 25/3. So we're going to take the reciprocal of the 25/3, that becomes 3/25. Both the 165 and 25 divide by 5. 25 divided by 5 is 5. 165 divided by 5 is 33. 33 times 3 is 99. 8 times 5 is 40. 40 goes into 99 twice with 19 left over. What do you think? More fun than a sharp stick in the eye? Not really. At least you're being honest with it. Here's a process that's going to kind of combine some skills for you. Let's say you're looking at, let's say you need to bore a hole. And you look at 2 drill bits. You have a 13/16 drill bit, which is too small, and a 7/8 drill bit, which is a little too large. You realize you need to find the size exactly in between them. How would you find the size that's exactly in between them? Well, let's take a look at this. If I had the numbers 19 and 27 and you wanted to find the size, the number exactly in between them, what would you do? You would take an average. There's a couple ways you could do it. You could subtract it, divide the difference by 2, and add that onto the smaller one. But the simplest way is to average them. To average them, you're going to add them together and divide by 2. 19 plus 27 is 46. Divided by 2 is 23. 23 is exactly in the middle between those. We can do the same thing with our fractions. If we have 13/16 and 7/8 and we need to find the size exactly in between it, it's going to be 13/16 plus 7/8 and then divided by 2. So 13/16 plus 14/16, which is going to give us 27/16. Now dividing by 2 is going to be the same as multiplying by 1/2. We treat that as 2/1. We multiply by the reciprocal, which is 1/2. So 27 times 1 is 27. 16 times 2 is 32. So 27/32 is the size that is exactly in between them. Yep. Is it? Oh, you are correct, isn't it? That should be 16. That does change it a little bit. So that should be over 80. So that's 1 in 19/80. Does that look better? Okay. That's what the calculator says? Okay. That's okay. Well, I'm glad you caught it because I'd hate to have you think you were wrong. Sometimes the little hamster doesn't quite get on the wheel by this time of the morning. Occasionally we'll just sit there and spot it with his paw and hope it goes fast enough. Okay, let's try another one. Actually, let's have you guys try a couple. Let's say you've got 1/2 and 17/32. Find the size that's in between there. And then we're going to do, I'm going to have you also do let's see, 23/64 and 3/8. Find the size that's in between there. So we'll give you a minute. Okay, so for the first one here, this ends up being, of course, 16/32. So we add them together, we would get 33/32. After you divide by 2, you get 33/64, correct? Okay. Over here, this one becomes 24/64. So you add them together to get 47/64. After you divide by 2, you get 47 over 128, correct? Perfect. In your big book, page 74, it's actually exercise 12, but just 2-17, 1 through 25, the odds. Now, as I've said before, if you do the first couple and they're really easy, skip ahead a few. I'm also going to have you work on page 76, exercise 2-18. That's only going to be 1 through 7, the odds. This is your homework. So I'll let you guys have the last 8 minutes to get started on your homework. Any questions, come up and give me a yell.